The intention is to serve. You sharing your story and what you've come through and the impossibility of you being here right now is not about you. It's about some other person who might see that story and then have a little bit of hope that they might be able to do it too. YouTube is the cheapest and most sustainable attention that you can get for your business. We're in the business of educating potential customers, getting millions of people potentially to know about us, like us, trust us. And what do? Then they want to buy our products, engage with our company, and work with us. So for me, it's about how do I take YouTube and then turn that into a business, make the content that you needed 5 or 10 years ago. And so lots of people need that same guidance. And so what would you need?
Welcome to the Scale or Fail show. I am your host, Allison Maslan. I am a 10-time entrepreneur and author of Scale or Fail. We are all things scaling on this show. And to help you get there, I am so excited to introduce to you the digital expert, the YouTube expert, and Evan Carmichael is somebody that helps you believe. So Evan, welcome to the Scale or Fail show.
Thanks for having me, Allison. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And it's been great getting to know you over this past year. And I'm so impressed with the work that you're doing in the digital space and helping entrepreneurs step into their greatness. And you've had a really incredible journey. And I don't think you know this, but we have something in common because apparently you started it in the business world at age 19. And that was the magic number for me. That's exactly when I entered the business world. But you launched and sold a company then. Can you walk us through a little bit about how you got into the entrepreneurial game?
So I had a lot of entrepreneurial tendencies growing up. I did baseball cards and garage sales and all that kind of stuff. But there were no entrepreneurs in my family. And it also wasn't a thing. You know, I'm 40 years old right now. So in the 80s, 90s, it just people didn't want to be entrepreneurs unless you knew somebody, or you kind of had to be crazy. It means you didn't fit into the normal world. So you had to go do your own thing. So even though I had a lot of tendencies, I just didn't gravitate towards entrepreneurship. I thought I wanted to be a banker because I like money and I like making money. And so I asked my parents, who makes money? Bankers. Okay, I want to be a banker. Then I had a shot, though, when I was in undergrad at university. I was 19 years old, and I connected with 2 people who had started a business, and they asked me to join. And I thought, you know what? I'd rather fail and know than not know. And so instead of taking the 6-figure investment banking job that I thought I wanted, I took a $300 a month salary and took 30% of this biotech startup and just went for it. And we struggled the first year. I quit on my business partner, but went back to it. And 2 years later, ended up selling the company. And that kind of started the journey. But I didn't know it was going to work out. I honestly thought it wasn't going to work out. I just didn't want to imagine. I told myself when I'm 40, I don't want to look back and hate my life or regret it. 40 seemed like such an old man number, I guess, when you're 19 looking forward.
It's so true.
I decided, you know what, I'd rather know and fail than not know. A bunch of my friends were taking a year off to travel the world and figure themselves out. So I said, you know what, I'll take a year to try this thing and hopefully it works out. And thankfully it did.
And here you are. It's so funny. When I was 19, I saw Mick Jagger perform, and he was 40. And I thought, oh my God, he's so old, but man, I've way surpassed you. But from that early experience, what were some of the lessons that you learned, Evan, that have served you today?
I think it's firstly always comes down to belief. I mean, I know you mentioned it in your intro, but whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. That famous quote is so true. And I think everybody has what I call Michael Jordan level genius at something. Like you could be the greatest in the world at something, but it's probably not what you went to school for. And it's probably not what your parents wanted you to do. It's probably something totally different, especially going into this environment. Of me talking about me being 40, the opportunities for me at 40 right now are way more than what my parents had when they were 40, the same age. And it's only going to be easier for people to launch businesses and scale and get to where they want to go. It used to be a lot more difficult. And so the belief that you could be great at something, and then the courage to actually do it, even if it may not work out. I think our head and our heart often fight each other, where your head just understands the world that currently exists and tells you to be safe and be practical and basically stay small. And your heart says, no, I want to go make that thing. Like, I want to make this thing that's never been done before. And people might look at you and say, well, you think you're going to be this amazing businesswoman? You think you're going to run this group and coach all these CEO entrepreneurs on how to, right? You didn't go to school for that. People in your family might not have done anything close to that. So what makes you think you can do it? Like, I have to do it. And so I think that's the drive that takes a lot of entrepreneurs way, not just out of their comfort zone, but out of the realm of practicality. Like, you shouldn't be here. You're an impossibility, but you made it so because your heart had a bigger dream than your head.
Oh, I love that, Evan. That is just beautiful. And it's so true. The possibilities are endless right now. I mean, I started in the business world in the early 80s, and you can imagine then as a woman too, people are like, hey, honey, that's really cute, that thing you're doing, you know. But now with internet, digital marketing, all the different things, you can, you know, get a business going quickly. Totally different world than our parents. So, so switching gears just a bit to the online world and all these opportunities, and you've developed such a strong influence and following online. What would you say are like the most powerful things you've done to grow that following? Like maybe the overall philosophy of what you do.
Yeah, I think step one is just starting. A lot of people have a great message, a great mindset, a great heart. Like, you want to serve, you want to do good, you want to create to help people. You've got a story that could inspire a lot of people. Your story of impossibility could serve millions of people, but we just don't start. You know, you don't start because you're worried about having the right camera or the right gear, or that nobody's going to watch it, or that people will watch it. Like, all of the stories get in our head that prevent us from just pressing the record button and then posting it, right? So just start and expect to suck. Like, expect your first video to suck, your first piece of content to suck, your first interview to suck. It doesn't mean you suck as a human. It just means that you don't have the skill set yet. Why do you expect to have the great skill set when you're first getting started? And I think this is what holds a lot of people back, is, you know, what looks good. You might look to Allison and say, wow, she has it all together, and she asks great questions, and she makes her own videos amazing. And when she's on stage, I'm listening to every word. It's like she's got it all together. But that's not how she started, right?
No.
It's not how she started.
Far from that.
And so that's the problem, is people know what good looks like. They can look to your content and see, wow, look at what a great job Allison's doing. They know that that's good. And they think, okay, I may not be able to do that yet, but I can get kind of close to it. And then they make their first version and they press record and the lights come on, and then they freeze and panic. And then they watch it back. It's like, wow, I'm way worse than I thought I was going to be. I suck. And it just means you don't have the skill set yet. And that's one thing that a lot of people have a really hard time overcoming, is they can't separate. The fact that you suck at the skill doesn't mean that you suck as a human. You get better at the skill by practicing and doing more and getting it out there. So your first version of whatever it is, it should suck. It should be embarrassing. It should not be something that you're incredibly proud of, but be proud of the fact that you started and that you got something out there. Because the thing that always helps me is the intention is to serve. You sharing your story and what you've come through and the impossibility of you being here right now is not about you. It's about some other person who might see that story and then have a little bit of hope that they might be able to do it too. And anytime I'm afraid of doing something, that's what I just remind myself back. This is for service. This isn't about me and my fears and insecurities and playing small. It's about, this message might help somebody, and I don't want to cheat them of the opportunity to do that. So just getting started was a big thing that helped me. And then I would couple that with pay attention to who is watching instead of who isn't. We tend to focus on everybody else's numbers. oh, Evan had 400,000 views yesterday on his channel. I only got 8 or whatever. Like we always compare ourselves to other people, and it's great. Like I want growth too. I want to scale too. I want to scale bigger, right? I'm at almost 3 million on YouTube. I want to hit 10. I'm at 400 million. I want to hit 1 billion, right? Like that's good. That's growth. We want to continue to climb the mountain forever. And it's still always been much more about who is watching. So in the early days of my channel, my very first video, in the first year, I had 3 comments on it. The first was my mom. The second was my older sister. And then the third was some random guy who somehow found me. And I treasured the fact that somebody had found me. That if you had 300 people watch your video, a lot of people would look at that and say, oh, I only had 300 people watch my video. But if you were to go and give a keynote or go speak at a library or a YMCA or something, if 300 people show up, you'd be pumped. You'd be nervous, right? It's like, wow, 300 people came. But somehow when it's in the online world, it's like, oh, only 300. I guess I suck. And so when you focus on who you do have and showing them love and care and support, one, it is just better for your mental state instead of always saying, I wish I had this. But 2, it actually leads to more people because those people feel the love and then they tell their friends and they come back and they tell their friends and they come back. And that has always led to the growth. So at 5 subscribers versus 3 million subscribers, it's still about who I have instead of just focusing on who I don't have.
Yeah, they're 5 human beings, right? They're people that somebody there, you've made a massive impact in their day, so that's, I love that. And you are such a go-giver. You're such a generous person, Evan, truly you are. And I love the saying, don't worry, be crappy. Because it's true. You just have to get out of the gate. I was terrible in the beginning. I remember I had a film crew come. This was when my first book came back out in 2009. And they were like, okay, Allison, we want you to say something like this. And I go, okay, I'm ready. And then I would go to say it and nothing would come out of my mouth. Like I couldn't remember one sentence because I was so nervous. But it's just like anything, right? If you're a classical pianist, you don't start out as a classical pianist. You start out with like chopsticks or something, right? You have to start somewhere. So I love that. Thank you for that. And
I'd say we think like you didn't go in thinking, I'm going to nail this, but you went in thinking you'd be better than what you were, right? Like it's a big reality check to think, okay, I'll be okay going in, but then, wow, I really was bad. That was so embarrassingly bad. And that's where most people stop. And for most people, it's not necessarily a film crew, but it's their own cell phone. It's like, okay, I'm going to record a video, and they hold it up and they record, and then they watch it back and they realize, wow, I am way worse than I thought. And then they delete it and then they never post, and they're caught up in the comparison and procrastination and fear and perfection. And then it's a year later and they still haven't done anything. And so I love the don't worry, I haven't heard that one before. Don't worry, be crappy, but I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Take it, use it. Yeah, definitely like do a search for some of my videos back on 2008 or something like that. Oh my goodness. They're pretty funny, but I do leave them up there. So to show the journey, It's
so important. It's so important because, and same thing for me, you can go back and watch all my videos from April 2009 of the first. I think your video was actually before mine. I think you got started on YouTube before me, but you've had content up there for a while.
Yeah, and look at where you are. See now, I mean, like talk about. I've got quite a big mountain climb to go to get there.
You haven't you haven't just been sleeping doing nothing for 12 years. You've been doing other stuff.
just a few things. So
but I think for people getting started, it's important because what is your message to the world? Mm-hmm. Is your message only get started when it's perfect? Is your message don't start until you have everything exactly as is? Like that would not be how you talk to your daughter, to your son, to your friends, to the world. That's not your actual message, but it's what you're living. It's what people are doing. They don't want to do it unless it's perfect. That's not the message you actually want to put out to the world. So you have to actually start living your own message first. Get it out there, expect it to be crappy, and then you can look back as a source of inspiration. Like get pumped for it being crappy right now. so that in a year when you look back, you can show the world, see where I started? Because if you were great the first time out, people won't want to follow you.
Yeah.
Because there is no journey. I need to see how you sucked at the beginning so that I can feel connected to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, that's really how there's no way to improve on it unless you do it. You just have to do it. There's a great saying, do it afraid. Just do it afraid. I love that. So, so speaking of the YouTube and the visibility, and you do have such a massive following on YouTube. What are some of the big trends that you see happening? Because things are changing all the time. That the higher level business owner that we speak to, that CEO or that founder, should take advantage of in the way of visibility on YouTube.
So the first is, YouTube is quickly becoming an education platform. It didn't used to be. YouTube used to be entertainment. When I was around 11 years ago, or when you first posted your video, why you didn't continue back then was because the audience wasn't there. Like, it was probably a smart decision not to go all in on YouTube at that time. It's changed though over the past few years, where education is the people are going for long form content. Like, this kind of interview 10 years ago would have totally flopped, but is very du jour right now because people are complaining about short attention spans. That's not happening on YouTube. People go for long form content, and every business owner doesn't need to be an influencer. I'm not here to say, hey, quit your business and go be a YouTuber, right? Like, I want you to grow your business. YouTube is the cheapest and most sustainable attention that you can get for your business. We're in the business of educating potential customers, getting millions of people potentially to know about us, like us, trust us. Then what do? Then they want to buy our products, engage with our company, and work with us. So for me, it's about, how do I take YouTube and then turn that into a business? Even from day one, it's been about making it a business, not just getting a whole bunch of views. I remember one of my first YouTube events that I went to, I had, I don't know, 300,000 subscribers or something. And I met a guy who had 8 million, like 8 million subscribers. Holy cow. What do you need help with right now? Like, what are you trying to do just to get a sense of what does somebody with 8 million subscribers do? He's like, yeah, I just made enough money to hire my first assistant. So I'm trying to do that. It's like, wait a minute. You have 8 million subscribers and you're just making enough money to hire an assistant?
What's wrong with this?
Yeah. It's like, wow. And it's just because that was his first business, and he didn't approach it as a business owner, where for me from the get, it was already, this has to be a business. It's not just trying to be an influencer. I mean, that word didn't even exist when I started on the YouTube channel, but it's always been about business. So for anybody thinking about creating a YouTube channel, if you already have an existing business, I want that to support and help grow. We're talking about scaling. It's one of the fastest ways to scale the marketing for your business, so people end up buying your products, wanting to work with you. The easiest way to do that is show me the process of you doing the thing that you're great at. A lot of people, I think, default to trying to do talking head videos, thought leadership content, of just standing in front of a camera, pressing record, and trying to share a message. I think it's a great skill to learn, but a hard one for people to pick up if you haven't had any media training before or have never been in the public eye. And so your videos end up sucking. You can still learn it. It's still a good journey for you to go on. Most of the time, the easiest videos to make are you actually working with potential customers, prospects, or people who are in your pool, coaching. Now, you may not be a coach, right? But think about all the questions that you get asked from potential customers, whatever business you're in.
Yeah.
Help them. Just help answer their questions. Just even if they're picture in picture, like somebody's in front of you. It's way easier to talk to somebody when they're right there, as opposed to just talking to a lens and I'm imagining that there's people watching this video, right? And entrepreneurs are great at that. Like, that's how you build your business, from talking to customers, understanding their problems, giving them solutions, caring about them. So that's the easiest way in, and it exposes your expertise, your knowledge, your care. That's how you beat the big companies, right? Why do I buy from you, small entrepreneur, instead of some giant corporation? Because I feel like you care about me, because I resonate with your story, because you don't just treat me like a number like this giant corporation does. And so that heart comes through. when you're actually talking with a potential customer, somebody who's got problems that you know how to solve. That's usually the easiest way in. But whatever you want to make money doing, show me the process of you doing it on video and put it long form on YouTube, and then you can cut it up for the other platforms.
Oh, I love that. And I'm getting all kinds of visuals in my brain, Evan. So let's say you have a retail store, you could actually show you helping a customer, your incredible customer service, how you walk them through fashion tips, what would be the best styles for them, but in action. Or even, let's say, a staffing company is talking with someone on how they bring them on to prepare them for a company to hire somebody, actually doing that thing instead of talking about doing that thing.
Yeah, it's making sure that it's value and it's not a commercial. We're educating, we're not selling. In the education, we end up building a relationship and we become the person that we end up selling to, but we're not trying to sell in that video. It's super important. Like, don't treat it like an advertisement. We can run YouTube ads. It's a whole other thing that we can get into if you want, but treat it like brand building and marketing for you personally and or your business. The retail store is a great example. If you sell women's clothing, you have a woman walk in, and then what are the typical problems? Like, you bring a real woman in, not an actress, a real woman who is the typical demographic of who normally come to the store, and you have you or someone on your team help her shop. And all the questions that you normally ask, like, you're not acting. When a customer walks in, you welcome them. You ask her what she's looking for. You ask her what her style is. You have your set of questions that you normally go through. Now you do that on tape. And hopefully, if you're good at what you do, she walks out with like, oh my God, this dress is amazing. I never thought I would fit that style, or whatever comes to her head, right? Your goal is to get that aha moment. If you're an author, you want to promote a new book. Don't just talk about the book. Show me the process of you writing the book. The best thing I did for my first book was every week I talk about what I'm doing with the book. I talk about the manuscript being delivered to the publisher, or the back and forth fighting over the cover and the image and the copywriting and the proofing and just what goes into making a book. It's an excuse for me to talk about the book every time. And I'm building up demand for the book. Instead of just saying, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, I'm showing people the process that goes into making the thing. And so for every single business, there's education that's involved to get the customer or the prospect from feeling unsure, insecure, overwhelmed, nervous, scared. And already these entrepreneurs are doing this day to day. Now I just want you to film it. And some people won't want it filmed. That's okay. You don't need a million people to do it. Some people would love the opportunity to have the free, maybe exposure on the channel, but also just the free guidance, the free wisdom for you. If you're promising a total body makeover or a total style makeover, right? People go on TV shows to do this, right? Like, you could do that. You do that every day already in your business. Now just put it on camera, and you don't have to make it some fancy production. All I need to see is that your customer's eyes bug out, that when they're working with you, they come in insecure, afraid, hopeless, and they leave like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Because people will watch that and say, I think she could do that for me too.
Yeah, it's like reality show meets educational at the same time. And you just gave me that great idea, because I am starting to work on my third book now. So thank you for that. It's so true to bring people into the process, because, the audience is struggling with those things. So they get that insight.
So whenever I'm working with somebody who wants to start a YouTube channel, I was like, okay, well, why? What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? And if somebody says, oh, I don't know, I just want to be famous on YouTube, it's like, oh, okay, we got a long way to go. But someone like you might say, okay, I want to get my new book out to the market. Awesome, Allison. When is it out? And let's start preparing our calendar of content. So I would have, are you still writing it? Or are you back and forth to the publisher? Where are you with it right now?
Oh, I'm in the writing process right now, working with the editor.
Great. So I would have a weekly series where you're talking about the new chapter that you're about to write. And maybe you're super pumped up because you're so excited to write this chapter. Or maybe you have writer's block and you're frustrated that you don't know what to write. And you've been staring at your computer blank page for an hour and you don't know what to do, right? Like, it's real.
Oh, yeah.
That's real. And then what I would do is and this is what I did for my videos. You look at the comments from last week's videos and then you answer them. So you give a quick update on where you are with the book. And then on whatever happened last week, people will leave comments to say, oh, Allison, how about this? And have you thought about that? And how did you deal with this? And then you answer some people's questions at the end of next week's videos. And then you train people like, oh, Allison's going to answer our questions in the next week's video. So you're training them to come back and watch next week's video. Meanwhile, you're talking about the book every single week without talking about the book, right? Without it being a sales pitch every time.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love that. There's so much golden nuggets that you're sharing with us, Evan. I'm so glad that I will have this recorded because I'm going to go back and listen to it. So thank you. What would you say to someone who is struggling to connect with their audience? They have been at it for a while and they're just not, doesn't seem like they're getting the traction. What are some ways to fix that?
Make the content that you needed 5 or 10 years ago. Like if you're struggling to connect, you're struggling to connect with yourself. It's finding that. So I still, right now, I'm 40 years old. I make content for 19-year-old Evan when I started my business, right? And if I'm you, Allison, I make content for 19-year-old Allison. What does she need to hear? What does she need to see? Who needs to be on this channel? What's the messaging? What's the tonality to give her the hope and belief that she could end up here? Because there's millions of people that are 19-year-old Allisons and 19-year-old Evans around the world, and they don't think that it's possible. 19-year-old Allison looks at you now and says, that's not possible.
Yeah.
And yet you've done it. And so lots of people need that same guidance. And so what would you need? That's why I went to YouTube, because I'm a visual learner. And at the time, YouTube was the only video place. Now everything has video. Instagram has video and Twitter has video and Facebook. But at the time, YouTube was the only video place. So I started making content, learning from successful people. I have a lot of videos that kind of model success because that's what I needed the most. And I still make content now for 19-year-old Evan. So connect back if you're to the question of, if you have a hard time connecting to your audience, connect back to the most painful moment in your life when you were younger, and then make content that person needed to see.
Yeah. Gosh, you know what? I hadn't thought of it that way. It's so interesting. Now, when I'm older than you, Evan. So when I was 19, we didn't have social media. We didn't even have internet. It was
I didn't have internet.
The horse and buggy days.
Yeah, well, come on now. We just had internet. I mean, I remember having to go in high school. I went to the library to do research. And then the CD-ROM came out with Encyclopedia Britannica and all that stuff. I just got internet going into university. But yeah, I could just imagine you could go back to 19-year-old Allison and you brought your smartphone with you and you showed her a YouTube video. Like, what would that video be? What's the most important message you would give her before you teleport back to the future? Like, here's the video you need to watch.
Yeah. It was all around confidence. It was all around confidence for me back then. So I would have probably looked at myself now back then and thought, oh my God, that's just so much pressure. I couldn't, because I didn't have the confidence then. But I also just did not want to live in poverty. There was definitely that going on too. Like, well, when your back's against the wall, like you find a way to make it happen. So definitely grateful for those years, but that's such a great tip.
Yeah. And in all of that, that's your uniqueness. That's how you can stand out against people. Will then say, well, there's so many people already making content and there's so many other people sharing their views. How do I stand out? Well, that's how you stand out, because nobody is really effectively talking to 19-year-old Allison, talking about getting out of poverty and talking about confidence, not in the way that she really needs. There's people talking around it, but not actually talking to her. And that's your audience. Talking to 19-year-old Allison.
Yeah,
me too,
I love that. I love that. Now, when you start to, like, you get traction and we're all about scaling, what have been some of your challenges that you have faced in your business as you have been looking to really multiply your growth?
So scaling always means team, right? You have to build a team. You can't do everything yourself. You can go fast by yourself, but you go far with your team, as the famous quote goes. One of the hardest things for me was recognizing that I was spending way too much time on the things that I didn't care about and didn't want to get good at. So editing, for example, is one for me, where I might spend 20 minutes recording a video and then 4 to 5 hours editing it. Now that's fine if you want to be an editor, but I didn't want to be an editor. You're spending all of that time training the wrong skill.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get great at making videos, it has to be flipped, or 4 to 5 hours making a video and just 20 minutes editing it. And I just did that for years and never even, I wish I met you, because you would have set me straight right away. Like it didn't resonate. It just made sense.
Stop that, Evan. Stop that.
Come on, Evan. Let's go. We got to get there faster. We got to scale. Most people just spend too much of their day doing things that they don't want to be great at. And that's the biggest impediment to you actually scaling, because it has to get done and you think you need to do it yourself. And yes, you can look to eliminating some things. And yes, you can look to automating some things through software, but ultimately you have to have a team to scale, to take some of the things off your plate. And people are afraid to make that jump. And I was afraid to make that jump. And finally I did, but that's partly why I grew so slowly. Right. But my first 5 years, talk about scaling, 0 to 5 years was 0 subscribers to 7,000 subscribers. In 5 years, I had 7,000 subscribers. And then 5 years to 10 years was 7,000 subscribers to 2 million.
Yeah. Incredible.
That's scaling. And that's a lot because of team and me getting out of my own way and me stop doing the things that just wasn't bringing incredible value. No matter how much I spend on editing, I'm just never going to be a great editor because I don't want to be. Yeah. It's not my calling. I'm not Michael Jordan genius at that. I want to be doing other things. And so once I realized, oh my gosh, I've been spending years, spending 4 hours, 5 hours editing a video and 20 minutes recording it. That's why I'm not scaling. This is the problem that I need to fix.
Yeah. What you could be doing in those 4 to 5 hours, right? Where you are really adding your genius, your zone of genius. There's a statistic that says when you hire within the first 6 months of your business, even if it's an assistant, you will get to 7 figures in half the time.
Wow. I believe it.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? But we don't because we're afraid to spend the money, but it's actually the opposite that's happening.
Well, and listen, I think you can start part-time. You don't have to hire somebody full-time and drop 40, 50, 60, 70K on somebody. Like it's that huge expense that limits a lot of people. The very first person I hired for an hour a day, 1 hour a day. You can hire somebody to do a couple hours a week of stuff that just makes your life easier. And if you've never hired anybody before, I think it's actually good because hiring from never having an employee to having a full-time employee is a learning curve.
Oh, yeah.
You think that this person's going to come on and just take away all your problems, right? That's how we think. But like, no, they need training and guidance and mentoring and right. And so it's a lot easier for you to actually build the managerial muscles to one, start earlier because you're hiring them part-time. But two, to not have so many responsibilities of training and guiding a full-time employee where they only have one thing that they have to do for you. It actually, I think, makes you a better leader, manager, and smooths out the transition. There we go. So yeah, like scaling has to come from hiring a team, and the sooner you can get there, the better.
Yes. And that's what we're all about too, is helping people build that team managed company so you can get out of your own way. So, and speaking about getting out of your own way, what are some things that you do, maybe some success rituals, things you do every day to set yourself up for success?
One is music. I start my day with music. I don't wake up every day. I might have energy on this interview and I'm so pumped to be here with Allison, but I don't wake up and like, yes,
me either.
Monday, let's go. It's like nobody does that. And I think that's part of what I'm trying to break down is so many people will look to whoever, an Allison, an Evan, a Tony Robbins, and say, well, they're just different. They wake up ready to go, and I wake up tired and upset at the world or whatever. Like, I wake up tired and groggy too. It's the routines and the habits and the mindset shift that high achievers demand excellence from themselves on a daily basis. And so music for me is the fastest way to change my state.
Yes.
So I wake up and I have music on. I'm on a trampoline, and so I stand on this all day too, which helps get the energy going constantly. Some kind of intention for the day. I'll usually do this in a shower. So I have a shower, and then I think, I don't know, I tend to think in the shower. Well, how do I want today to go? What am I even doing today? What day is today? Today's, whatever day it is. And who am I talking to? And what are my responsibilities? And kind of, instead of just falling into my day and responding to other people's emergencies, what do I actually want today to look like? And that's what I think about while I'm, scrubbing down. And then I think whatever helps pull you to a different dimension of believing that you can scale. Because I think one of the biggest problems for people who don't scale, it's not that they don't have the how. Allison can teach you the how. It's the belief that the how is possible for you.
Yeah.
Once you believe that you could do it, there's so many hows for you to get there. So what makes you feel more bold, more courageous, more confident, and have that belief? Maybe that's a friend in your life. Maybe that's watching Allison's YouTube channel. Maybe that's a book or a podcast. But whatever that thing is, I think you need it daily. So for me, it's my own videos, the videos on my channel, because I want to be around Oprah every day and Elon Musk every day and Jeff Bezos every day. And if you're around it every day, they start to whisper in your ear and you start to think a little bit bigger. You start to feel like it's possible. I think I'm thinking big. And then I watch an Elon Musk video of him having a backup plan for the planet. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not thinking big at all. And it's great. Like, if you hang around these people more, they will pull you to start to think like them. And you don't notice it on a day-to-day basis. But when you look back like months or years, if you watch one of Allison's videos every day for the next year, you will start to think more like Allison. You will start to be happier, more positive, more optimistic, have strategies to want to scale and grow. And again, you won't notice it day to day, but a year from today, you look back and say, wow, I've totally transformed thanks to Allison, right? And so whatever that thing is for you, for me, it's videos. Other people is podcasts or something else, but every single day. So music to change the state, the shower to set the intention, and then the videos for me to have the belief and the courage to then go off and attack the day.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That is really powerful. It's interesting because I am not a morning person either. And in fact, I had someone on my team text me this morning and say, Allison, we need a video, promoting the event. If you could get it to me by 8:40 this morning. I was like, that's not going to happen. Maybe more like noon. But I do those things that you're talking about. I work on shifting my state. And I think it's not something that you just step into naturally. You literally have to work at and put yourself in that situation so that you will rise to the occasion. And I think it's definitely a habit, a new habit you literally need to do every day for the rest of your life. But it's fun.
I hope so. I mean, that's the intention. And I think I'm not a morning person either. And I think playing around that is important. So I find in the mornings, I'm introverted and shy by nature. It doesn't come across in these things because it's so much fun to do this with you. But I'm introverted and shy normally. Like if I was just by myself all day long, I'm pretty good. Just give me my wife, I'm good. In the mornings, I find I'm a lot more pensive. And I do more introverted kind of tasks. And in the afternoon, I start to open up a little bit more. So play with that. Instead of fighting against your nature, you play with it. So we're doing this in the afternoon. We're not recording this at 7 a.m. where both of us would be like, oh, hi, Allison. Oh, hey, I'm in a low energy meeting. Right? Woo, entrepreneurs. So I don't book anything with another human until at least 10:30. And most of the time it's in the afternoon because that's when I'll have done my pensive thinking, inside work and writing or something just by myself. I like having that morning time to myself. And in the afternoon is usually more the public facing stuff that has to go with your business. And part of being an entrepreneur is, hey, we get to pick our schedule. Like, why did you become an entrepreneur? Because you wanted freedom, because you didn't want to be told what to do, where to show up, how often you have to show up, exactly to do it. So if you know your style, some people are the exact opposite. It's like they're asleep by 8 o'clock at night. They can't handle anything past 4 o'clock. Like they're brain dead and foggy, and they wake up at 5 and like, let's go. So just playing to your style, they can make a big difference.
I love it. I love it. And as we round out this interview, which has been so empowering, Evan, I was just sitting here thinking, because you have interviewed some incredible people and that are also super inspiring. In fact, I think Naveen Jain you've interviewed, and he's actually speaking at my event in a couple of weeks. What are like in the people that you've interviewed or that you highlight on your YouTube, are there any quotes or any particular lessons that you, when you heard that, you just went, oh my gosh, this is transformational? I'd love for you to help us inspire our entrepreneurs as we round out this interview.
Well, Naveen is a great one, because when people first suggested Naveen in my circle, I had no idea who he was. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I'll look up this guy, Naveen Jain, we'll see what he's got. And the idea of taking your moonshot is super related to scaling your business. But like, what's your moonshot? What's your big idea? If you want to make $1 billion, you got to solve a $1 billion problem. Mm-hmm. And most people, even me, I don't think that way most of the time. And so it's a great challenge. Like Naveen is one of the guys who has been the most surprising of the people that I've been able to kind of learn from, because I knew nothing about him, and he's such a big thinker. And so if you're around Naveen consistently, you are going to start to think bigger. You're going to start to say words like moonshot, where you wouldn't have even said that before. You're going to start thinking, what is my moonshot? How can I play a bigger game? Right? And he'll just stretch you to actually go off and solve problems. And here's a guy who doesn't have a background in any of the things that he's that he's getting into, right? It's like he didn't go to school for any of the things that he's trying to solve. And he just believes that he can do it. And he just dives in on the research and goes all in and wants to solve giant problems, and he attacks it. And I think that's inspiring for me and for others, because we get in their own way. So that's definitely one of them. I'll also shout out my parents who are behind me on the wall, who they would always tell me, I'm Evan Castrilli Carmichael. I can do anything that I believe that I can. And they weren't entrepreneurs, but that message just helped me be a better human. So those two, my parents and Naveen Jain, and people should go check out the event coming up.
Ah, that is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I tell that to my daughter every single day, as often that I talk with her. And I think that's such a gift that your parents gave to you. And Naveen came to this country with $5 in his pocket. So, I mean, if that is an inspiration to know that anybody can, make their dent in the universe, I don't know what is. So, Evan, are there any last words of wisdom you want to share, or how can people learn more about you? Of course, follow Evan on his incredible YouTube channel. What else?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to pick up the book, Amazon's easiest spot. Just look up Evan Carmichael, and wherever you are, I'm probably there. If you're on YouTube or Instagram or wherever you're hanging out, I'm probably there. Come say hi and say Allison sent you. In terms of a final message, I'd just say make today count. Like, if you got inspired by this, you made it all the way to the end, you're realizing that you're capable of something bigger. You want to take your moonshot. You want to go and scale your business, and you feel like it's possible right now. Use this energy to do something instead of waking up tomorrow and having to start all over again. I have a thing called the pillow test, where before you hit your head on the pillow at night, you ask yourself, am I proud of the effort I put in today? So pass the pillow test tonight. Are you proud of the effort that you put in today to go chase down your goals, dreams, and ambitions? If not, you still got time before you go to sleep. Go do something today.
If you want more marketing and more motivation, check out the interview that I did with Gary Vee right over here, and I'll see you there.
that we are talking about a platform that has changed the way that human beings communicate. It's where people pay attention. People are living inside their Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook feeds. We need to spend more time paying attention to people at scale because we can unlock behaviors and thought processes that lead us to be first in market thinkers that I'll tell you right now has become the separator of me and a lot of my contemporaries.